Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
How's it going? And welcome to another episode of On the Corner, cross-referenced with On the Wire. This is a bonus episode for everybody. I am your host today, Adam Howe. And today, of course, I am joined by the one and only Nick Pollack. Nick, how you feeling? How you doing?
I feel weird because I'm sitting across from a liar. Adam Howe is not the host today. That is me. Hi, I am Nick Pollack. And we have a mock draft to discuss, I think, about 2 months after you finish drafting.
That's the only way to talk about mock drafts. Just wait let it stew. You let it stew.
I mean, this is true, actually. It is really nice to look at it and then say, okay, has it changed since we originally did this in October? Why is that? That might be very useful. But of course, we're going through all 23 teams here of this 5x5 Yahoo's 12-team standard mock draft with 3 outfielders, 2 utility spots, no middle infield, no corner infield, and 9 pitching slots. And I have this very weird thing in my mouth and throat that's very sore that's making me talk like I have gauze in my mouth, and I don't. And I hate it, Adam. It drives me nuts. But this podcast got to get done.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
So I'm here for all of you, and I'm so sorry. I'm just going to let Adam take it away. But, hi. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's funny. You talk about like we wait 2 months to talk about something like this. And I am one of those crazy people, along with my co-host Kevin Hastings on the Wire, where we start drafting real drafts in October.
Yeah.
And so since we've done this mock draft, I'm about to complete my 4th draft of the off season.
You've done 4?
I've done 4. Yeah.
Oh
so we do listener leagues through the On the Wire podcast. Done 2 of those, did a couple of other ones, and all very, very different. 15 teamers, 12 teamers, different formats. It's just interesting to go back and look at this one with the structure that we put in place with a standard Yahoo structure. Like you said, no middle infielders, no corner infielders, right. 2 utilities, a bunch of pitchers.
No, what's really funny to me? I'm looking at my team again for the first time in ages. My pitching staff's amazing.
Of course, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm doing
little pat shoulder.
Well, yeah. I'm doing my rotation breakdowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm about 10 out of 30 or something done, maybe 15. And PL Pro members, you get early access to it. Mm-hmm. If you guys are curious, wait, did you say, Nick, no article, paywall, and everything? This is just true. These are blurbs that I normally don't share with everybody. This is the stuff that is going to be out for everybody for the top 300. Like I just copy and paste these, and I did them last year. I didn't share them with anyone, and I got a lot of requests, especially from PL Pro members, being like, "Can we read that? We're going to be there on the live stream anyway." And I realized, okay, it's early access. It's not something that y'all are going to see anyway. So it's a bonus, and I'm not doing something different. And you understand that. It makes sense. But I've gone through a lot of the guys I've already drafted. My team's great. You have a pretty good team too, and we're going to talk about that today. You had the 4th pick in this 12-teamer. To start, did you aim to have that 4th spot? Was that your intention? And do you think it's a good spot to draft from?
I think that usually in these mock drafts last couple of years, I've tried to be quick on the draw to grab a spot. I don't think I was this year. I think I just grabbed what was left. I do, in retrospect, especially after doing a few drafts already, I do want to be in the top 5. I'm especially in a 12-teamer. In a 12-teamer, it comes around a lot quicker. And so you can really still double down on your 1st, 2nd, and then 3rd round with really top quality players from what I can tell. In a 15-teamer, I might want to push closer to the middle just so I can, when I do double down that 1st, 2nd round, you still feel like you got 2 first rounders. Sure. And if you're at the top, if you're getting that 1 or 2 spot, maybe it doesn't matter because you're getting Acuna no matter what at that 1 spot. And that, that's basically doubling down at this point. But in a 12-teamer, I definitely want to be in the top 3, 4, maybe 5, especially just looking at this draft. I would have been happy with any of these top 5 guys, top 6 guys even. based on what we're seeing out of like
Now,
5 category studs.
Of course, Adam, you are a little leaning toward the NFBC format, favoring stolen bases, I think, a little more than your standard 12 team. Still, that's why I'm thinking that you added Bobby Witt Jr. in there. And all of the top 6 are your 5 category guys, really. I mean, is there anyone that wouldn't be? Kyle Tucker's still an average guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, he never wasn't an average guy. I think
Right.
he's had a season or two where you're like, oh, I'd rather not have that 260. I want him to be that 280 guy, that 290 guy, but he's not somebody that's hurting you in that category. I think the fear of Bobby Witt is that he could, come back down to earth and not be a 5 category guy and actually hurt you in batting average. But he showed that shouldn't be the worry at this moment.
Right. And from the 4th spot entering the draft, did you have a certain plan that you were going to execute, and as the draft went on, did you stick to it?
I don't in this draft. I don't think that I have a standard plan. I will say it's head to head, so I definitely play into that into the strategy of, hey, I need, whether it's win loss or if it's categories in these head to head category type leagues, I want to gain as much advantage in at least 5, if not 6 categories every week. And so I do try to focus on that as much as possible. And so I do focus a little bit more on stolen bases across the board, I feel. And I want to get those guys that have a carrying tool throughout the draft. So you'll see like my 4th round pick obviously doesn't have any stolen bases, but he has definitely has a carrying tool that can carry me in that category or 2 or 3. And so when I'm looking at picks, I do lean toward guys I feel as though have an advantage at least 1 or 2, and hopefully they're not hurting me in other categories as well.
Sure. And did you find yourself as you went through the draft reflecting on your picks and thinking, okay, I need to be targeting X, Y, and Z instead at different times?
I think that after my first 3 rounds, I felt pretty comfortable in the offensive categories all around. And so I think my focus further down when I finally did pull the trigger on some pitching, I knew, again, I went back to that idea that I'm going to need to find guys that are going to carry me through 2 or 3 categories. I wasn't really necessarily focusing on all 5 pitching categories, but I did want to focus on, and I think it's pretty obvious that like strikeouts was the category that I was really focusing on for my pitchers, and crossing my fingers on ratios. And you can only cross your fingers on wins when you play in a standard 5x5.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, so let's talk about your picks. The first one is Julio Rodriguez, who fell to the 4th spot. I think this is a pretty clear one. 32 home runs, 37 RBI, 37 stolen bases, 102 runs, 103 RBI, 275 average. The only concern I really see about Julio is just how good is the lineup going to be around him. So he can't get 102 runs or 103 RBI. But for the most part, a pretty safe top 5 pick.
Yeah, we got to remember, I mean, at this time of this draft, it was still the same lineup that we saw at the end of the season. Sure. It's gone through a little bit of changes, especially with, Jarred Kelenic not being in the lineup anymore, and a couple of other guys being traded away, mostly to Atlanta. But he's still the guy. I mean, he's still the guy.
The agency as well.
And I'm a big proponent. I'm probably going to say this 2 or 3 times throughout this podcast that, we were worried about Julio Rodriguez running going into 2023 because he really turned off the wheels in the second half of 2022. Obviously 30 plus stolen bases from anybody. You're like, all right, he's still running. And I think that Kevin and I talked about this, or we're going to talk about this on a future On the Wire podcast, that, something that I think Derek Carty brought up at First Pitch Arizona. Maybe it was just in a conversation, but the fact that there are a lot of teams out there that should have been running more, and to see Julio Rodriguez still putting up 30 some odd stolen bases in a season where he probably should have been running even more, makes me feel even more confident that we're going to continue to see a 5 category stud there.
Sure. So you have your outfielder. 2nd round, you go for a shortstop, Francisco Lindor. Why did you go over to Lindor instead of, say, Corey Seager?
we had this conversation, I think 2 years ago. I picked Lindor in at the back end of the first round. I think I was close to the turn, and I ended up going with Lindor over Jose Ramirez at the time. And you gave me a little bit of flack for that, and I think I earned it because that wasn't probably the right pick at the time.
What do you know? I know a thing or two about Edas. No, I don't really. That was just pure luck.
But Lindor, if you look at this draft, if you look at all drafts, or you look at like the categories of positions, shortstop, everybody always talks about how deep shortstop is and how much value you can get out of it later on. But really, when it comes down to is that top tier of shortstop, even though there are quite a few of them, they all get drafted and they're all gone. So I really don't want to fall off the cliff at that position when you can get such high quality across the board in somebody like Lindor. Corey Seager went right after me, right after Lindor in that situation. And so I don't want to be left kind of in the, I love Xander Bogaerts, Red Sox fan. He, hits close to home, obviously not there anymore, but I don't want to be left holding a Xander Bogaerts or taking a risk on somebody later on that I did take, but he's my backup. And so I want to make sure that I get somebody like Lindor in that middle infield position. And that, he's as safe as it comes, except for that one season, that first season in New York, he scared everybody. But I think he's kind of proven that he's the man in New York right now.
Yeah. So the biggest concern, of course, about Lindor, 30 really home runs and stolen bases, about 200 plus combined home runs and RBI, 254 average. You hope that comes back up. So he's not really that sink. It's been every other year that's been a real bad average. Was 230 in 2021 and 254 in 2003. Hopefully that does come back up for him in the future year. And I really understand that you're leaning on Lindor over Seager, of course, for the stolen bases as well. So I agree with you completely about the shortstops being much thinner than they were in previous years. I found that out pretty quickly. And that's why I went Gunnar in the third. I was like, I can't be that guy. I'm not going to be the one hunting for this. And I talk a lot about middle infield just being so difficult in a 12-teamer to really separate yourself from the pack. You don't really want to be playing on the wire the entire year for your middle infield when there's clearly talent.
Good plug there.
To be had, and there's a big gap between it on the wire. Love it. So you want to be listening to On the Wire. You just don't want to be playing it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Maybe the league, though. You should be playing the On the Wire league. Cody Bellinger, third round. Another outfielder here. This is actually, you have 3 outfielders of your first 4 picks. And what turned you to go to Cody Bellinger instead of locking down that second base position?
Well, I'm going to correct you there. Cody Bellinger is actually my first baseman in this situation. We are playing Yahoo. A lot more flexibility and a lot of these position eligibilities. Of course, on our draft board, he's showing up in orange, but he would be my starting first baseman here. I'll be honest, I've probably stretched here for him. I was pretty impressed with what he was able to do in his kind of makeup year with the Cubs. I'm curious to see where he, by the time we're recording this, he still hasn't signed anywhere yet as a free agent. I'll be interested to see where he goes. But I'm venturing to guess he did enough to get the eye of contenders and get into a lineup where he's going to be supported well. You're kind of like your concerns about Julio Rodriguez being like the only guy in Seattle for the most part. Yeah. I have I'm hopeful that Cody Bellinger ends up going somewhere where he is able to, he doesn't have to have a high weight on his shoulders, but at the same time, he can be surrounded by a good support staff that's going to play to his strength, and he's going to hopefully have fun and continue what he was able to build on in Chicago. And that is, getting back closer to the MVP caliber player that we've seen him be. He's done it. He's a tweaker. He likes to tweak everything he's done over the last couple of years, whether it's his swing or his stance or whatever. Hopefully, he can kind of find a rhythm and just kind of run with that wherever he ends up. But I'll be happy with the stolen base output out of my first base position, which is not something that you can usually lean on.
Yeah, it's hard to really buy into such a drastic 12-point strikeout drop, but then again, like, how can you not when it's so drastic, right? It's clearly not luck there. So you see the 307 average after, 165 and 210 in the previous 2 seasons for Cody Bellinger. That's pretty bonkers. You got stolen bases out of the first base position as well. And I like that you went with Bellinger over Vlad Jr. I'm personally not buying Vladdy in the 3rd round right now. I feel like Cody does seem safer. There is something to be said. I just saw them tonight. Glenn Colton has a whole thing about don't get guys after contract years. And it does very much feel like Cody woke up and said, oh no, I need to do something. And the idea that it will be the same thing again doesn't quite sit nice with me. But yeah, first base position isn't very deep. Christian Walker won the next round as well. Goldschmidt, Torque, Cassis. I can understand why you leaned on Bellinger. 4th round, we have Kyle Schwarber. There's your big boom, what was it, a carry guy? That's a reserved for a League of Legends, okay? A carry. This is not that. Tell us about Kyle Schwarber.
I mean, this is a guy who's going to put up, 40 plus home runs from the leadoff position on a very good team. It's really what it comes down to. I do not force. I guess I'm just going to hope. I guess I can't foresee, but I'm hoping he can bring that average up, because that is the one thing about Kyle Schwarber, at least this year, as a leadoff guy who in a batting average league, not an OBP league, that hits you 200. That actually actively hurts you. Whether you're playing head to head, it hurts you less in a head to head league, but it definitely hurts you a whole lot in a roto league. I talk about this all the time. It's like, you can get a catcher who hits you 230 and not feel so bad about it because it doesn't go as far. Sure. And you talk about it all the time too with like innings pitched. Like your ratios are going to hurt you a lot more if you're throwing 200 innings at a 4.5 versus 100 innings at 4.5. And so Schwarber can actively hurt you in that. It doesn't hurt you as much in a head-to-head league. He's going to chip in 5 or 6 more steals just because it seems like that's what he likes to do. He won the nation tacos, I believe. Was it last year or the year before in the playoffs? Because he stole the first had the first stolen base.
That's right.
It was either the World Series or just the playoffs in general. I think it was the World Series. So that was fun. He likes to do that. You don't get the kind of power with the kind of run scoring potential that Kyle Schwarber brings to the table. In a head-to-head league, I want the carrying tools. So to get the 100 runs, the close to 100 RBIs, even at the leadoff position, and the 40 stolen bases. I'm sorry, the 40 home runs.
Schwarber
all but guaranteed.
Stolen bases, I feel like, is a terrible, terrible concept. I would love to see that movie where he has to do that in one season. But yeah, Kyle Schwarber, as you mentioned, as that carry is just, you're going to get a high floor of production. Even though, of course, you're going to have to balance it with average and stolen bases. Head-to-head leagues, these kind of guys can really make larger impacts than their weight will pull down. So I totally understand that. And it's nice to just have that guy always there and present and through the entire season. Obviously, you're going to have to adapt a little bit, but I think it'll be fine. The 5th round comes with your first seal of approval. That is Pablo Lopez. And we actually just talked to him on the Pitcherless YouTube channel. You should go check it out. I did a whole game where I sat down 100 minutes and went pitch by pitch with Pablo Lopez. He is so kind and gracious with our time to do that, but he really dove into it with all of us. He had a notebook that he actually was looking through to see what he was thinking during the at-bats. It is so good. Definitely check it out on our YouTube channel. But Pablo Lopez, 5th round. I mean, I was so upset. I had no plan of going a pitcher in the 5th round, and you sniped me because I was thinking, my gosh, why are people letting me do this? I mean, you must have been thrilled at Pablo here.
Yeah, especially since, I've come to be a big proponent of your strategy, especially in 12 teamers on a Yahoo format of going hitter friendly, at least in the first 4, if not 5 or 6 rounds. And then, gobbling up as many of those starting pitchers that are still going to give you value in round 6 and on. And to see Pablo Lopez and what he brings to the table, showing that he obviously has the ability to stay healthy for an entire season and put up really quality production throughout the season. I want to be able to trust my ace, right? I want to be able to trust the first pitcher that I bring in all year round. And you talk about this all the time. You want to be able to trust your first 4 guys. Pablo's as trustworthy as it comes at the moment. And the fact, and like the intangibles that you're just talking about, the fact that he was able to sit down with you for 100 minutes and just really dive into it. He obviously in the middle of recording this in the middle of December. And that's how he wants to spend his time, and he's willing to spend his time doing that. Shows me like he obviously cares about not only what he's done, but what he's going to be doing moving forward. And he's really invested. Not to say that the majority of major league players aren't, but the fact that it just stands out, and you have the ability to kind of learn from what he has been able to do. I'd want him in every instance that I possibly can. I know you say that you don't have the influence, Nick, but you do, because he's being drafted a lot earlier than I would like to see.
Oh, stop that. I have him currently ranked at 6 on the list. That I believe is going to hold after I've gone over all the top 5 savers, Zach Wheeler and Garrett Cole, but I'm not going to put Pablo Lopez above them. Corbin Burns, I am going to have above Pablo Lopez. I just covered him. I think it was yesterday morning. And I'm actually a huge believer in Burns, but that's another conversation. We're going to go to the 6th round now, as you have an amazing ace already on your staff. And you decided not to go for a second one. You went with Royce Lewis, who, I'll be completely frank with you, after you took Royce Lewis, I took Alex Bregman because I needed a third baseman. I got her at my shortstop position. I saw Royce and I thought, maybe I should have taken Royce Lewis. Would you have taken Alex Bregman or Royce Lewis in my position? And why do you like Royce Lewis so much?
I mean, it's funny that you asked me why I like him. I mean, I like him because I guess anybody who's followed him as a prospect, as a baseball player or whatever, knows what he can do. It's always been a health concern, and it still is. Like, don't get me wrong. I've drafted Royce Lewis in I think 2 other leagues that of the 4 that I've drafted, because I still am willing to take that risk for what he can bring to the table. After I made this pick, I think you were the one that like went on and checked his PLV charts and posted all those, and I'm just like, thank you. Like, these are the things that like you have an inclination. You've seen the results on the field. You can see, and I think that based on what I've been seeing in the other drafts that I've done, I got a steal here in the 6th round. He's been going in the 3rd and 4th round in both 12 and 15 rounders that I've been part of. So, 5 category stud. He could bring it all in every category. As long, I do worry about whether or not the Twins will allow him to run consistently, literally just due to injury. Like, we saw Trout just stop running when he started getting hurt all the time. Byron Buxton wasn't allowed to run. And he's probably still isn't, though I'm sure he'll, say otherwise. So you worry about just being able to stay on the field all around, but in a head-to-head, in a fab style league where you can make replacements and you can have backups, it's funny you talked about how you had Gunnar Henderson in the 3rd round as your shortstop. In any other year, he would have been guaranteed 3rd baseman. And not to say that 3rd base is deeper than shortstop per se, but you're getting the quality, the potential quality of Royce Lewis in the 6th round as a 3rd baseman versus Gunnar in the 3rd round. Shows you that Josh Young went, it was sandwiched between Young and Bregman.
Lewis's skills I trust more. But there is that question of the health, obviously. I think that's the biggest hurdle for that. But really, at that point, it's Young, Arenado, Yandy Diaz, and then there's not much. And this is once again why I say, look, I would so much rather go for hitters, because let me tell you, there are so many good pitchers. I thought I was going to be off the Kyle Bradish train. He went in the 10th round, and that's so good.
You're like, fine.
I got Brian Wu in the 12th. I love Brian Wu. Brian Wu's so good. And it's it's just completely different, I think, with hitters, where we're saying it dries up so quickly in certain positions. And yeah, don't be in that position where you just feel like you're having to start someone who's inadequate. And you can still have a very, very good rotation. I think this year is more so than ever, in this way of a really amazing crop for like good 5 rounds of hitters. And then it gets really messy. So take advantage of that. We're going to talk about your 7th round pick, of course, as well. But we're going to talk about that. Who is a pitcher? Yes. After this break.
This bustling holiday season, you might be looking for a nutritious, flavorful meal to fuel you on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. We'll save you time and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all of your holiday to-dos. Factor isn't just for dinner. Count on extra convenience any time of day with an assortment of 55 and more add-ons to suit various preferences and tastes. Choose from quick breakfast items, lunch to go, grab-and-go snacks, and ready-to-drink cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. With Factor, you can be rest assured that you're making a sustainable choice as they offset 100% of delivery emissions and source 100% renewable electricity for all our products, sites, and offices. Head to factormeals.com/OTW50 and use code OTW50 to get 50% off. That's code OTW50 at factormeals.com/OTW50 to get 50% off.
And it's Freddy Peralta in the 7th round. That is Adam Howe's second starting pitcher. Freddy Peralta, who had an unbelievable second half, overshadowed by Blake Snell's run, maybe even Cole Ragans, you could say. Who is that guy? Who knows? And Freddy Peralta, I covered him the other day, the same day, of course, I did with Burns. I'm curious to hear your take on him.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Again, you want those top 4 guys to be guys that you can trust to be put into your rotation throughout the course of the season. And what Peralta was able to do, especially in the second half, made me, it's not like he was a slouch in the first half either. I mean, the second half was just so good. And the fact that, he's got the 30.9% K rate, 8th in Major League Baseball from last year, tacked on with a whip that's sub 115 whip. That's not going to hurt you in those ratio categories. I'm targeting strikeouts. A head-to-head league, category league. This is my carrying category that I'm going to be targeting the most throughout the course of the season. I'm willing to take the hit on ratios throughout the rest of the draft because I probably plan on doing some streaming throughout the beginning of the season to kind of solidify what's going to end up happening in my rotation. So I want the guys that I know I'm going to have all year round to be able to carry me through those situations, strikeouts. He's going to be put into a situation. I mean, 12 wins last year, when it comes right down to it, not that bad. Right. Not easy to come by. Yeah, Milwaukee.
Wins are a very interesting thing where I think a lot of people, I don't know, it's very easy to get lost in win expectations. When I think like JP Sears still had like 8 or something like that, or maybe even 9. I don't know. It was like 7 to 9 in there. And it's like, wait a second, that's not supposed to happen. You're on the Athletics. And then you see someone else like at 10. It's like, wait, this isn't really that big of a deal. I understand that 1 or 2 can be the difference of a season a bit in Roto, but man, that's just, there's a lot of times of a big shrug. And Freddie probably, he's going to get enough wins as long as he starts.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be put in a position where he can get the win as long as the Milwaukee bullpen hasn't been anything that's been a concern. With Joel Payamps and obviously Devin Williams still there at the back end, they're holding down the fort. And all we need is Freddy Peralta to go the 5, 6, maybe even 7 innings every once in a while to kind of almost all but guarantee that win opportunity.
Yeah, and the thing about Peralta for me, I found myself being out on Peralta. Sorry. Now,
so no seal of approval? No,
not this time. I mean, Bobby Miller is still out there. Yuri Perez was still out there. Eflin. I think I'm gonna be taking all of those guys ahead of Peralta. And you might be saying, "Wait, Nick, didn't you have him at like 14 or something or 13?" I'm like, "I did. This is true."
Things change.
Yeah. So the reason I've been out more, looking at his second half, I've always kind of thought of Peralta as a rhythm guy. He throws ultra cross body, which is apparently a very hard phrase for me to say right now. And because of that, it means that he goes in and out of this rhythm. You might not remember the beginning of the year. It was a 4.73 ERA and a 136 WHIP in his first 13 starts, right? Like he just wasn't not locked in. It did feel at the time that the velocity was, it was up like 2 ticks last year. And it should be better. He just hadn't really found a groove with his breaking stuff yet. And eventually he did, and the changeup even showed up by the end, which was pretty cool. The other aspects are the health being still finicky across his career, and I don't want to be overpaying for that health of one season. And the other aspect I think is kind of interesting is left-handed versus right-handed. That changeup added another tool for lefties that he didn't really need because the curveball exists for that one. But right-handers, he struggled a bit, and the four-seamer wasn't as effective, and the slider isn't as dependable as I want it to be. And it makes me, I don't know, a little weirded out for Freddy Peralta. And yeah, I think he's still like a top 20 pitcher. I think I see paths to 180 high-quality innings for other guys, and I feel like that's just a safer thing for me to chase than Peralta. Like I don't think
I like the safer thing to chase. That phrase is a good phrase.
Right, like you're going for a 3.21 ERA, a 0.93 WHIP, and a 36% K rate over his last 17 starts. Right, that's what everybody is envisioning with Peralta here, and we all know that ain't gonna be it, right? Then cue the Curb Your Enthusiasm music. A year later, but anyway, I mean, I don't blame you doing 7th round Peralta or anything like that. It's just I literally was just thinking about it yesterday as I wrote him up. So, that's probably where I'll be. Maybe like at 18 or 19. Ultimately, it's not really a big thing. 8th round, you got your first closer, and was this a reaction because I got Josh Hader right before you?
I was planning on picking a closer here. I probably would have picked Hader over.
Oh, I got you back.
You
Pablo.
did a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, obviously there's something to be said about, we know where Duran is. We know what his role is. And that's not easy to say about somebody. I mean, I talk to Grant Washburn about this a lot. Like he did all that research into the value of a save in arbitration.
Yeah, such a good article.
Yeah. By all means, search for that, find it. Grant Washburn, great stuff. And I'm a big proponent of it. I totally agree. Like I am worrisome about closers who are either pre or are in arbitration, just due to the monetary reasoning behind it and teams manipulating their ability to get saves, because they're worth so much in arbitration. We're going to hear a lot about that as arbitration hearings move on throughout the offseason and whatnot. But for right now, like there are exceptions to the rule, and Duran has proven that he is the closer on a good Minnesota team, and he is so fun to watch. 98 mile per hour splitter, the 101 mile per hour fastball. It's like Splinker.
Thank you.
But it was just eye popping, obviously in the playoffs, and like there's some playoff tax to be said about this draft happening, in the playoffs as these things are happening as well. Royce Lewis, obviously one of my picks earlier, went off as well for the Twins, made more of a name for himself. Duran was just like every gif you could possibly make, you'd want to make it out of him. Yeah. So he was a pretty obvious pick after Hader was off the board. Devin Williams went right before him. Clase was off the board. Edwin Diaz a couple rounds before that. So he's number 5 on Rick Graham's save and hold chart as well. So he was the 5th reliever off the board, and I think that's spot on.
It really bothers me that Duran's four-seamer gets such bad induced vertical break. It could really just be the most unhittable of unhittable. And it comes in at 102, and it's just 13 inches of it. And like Nick, I have no reference point of this. Totally get it. When I'm looking at starting pitchers and saying, hey, is this a good IVB, induced vertical break, four-seamer? If I see above 17, I go, whoa. Mm-hmm. Okay. If I see 16 and a half or so, I'm like, all right, that's good. That checks the box. If I see it's under 16 is where I'm saying, okay. And if it gets underneath 15, I go, okay, it's not good. And you got to figure something else out, really. And this is 13.1. Not good. but and like the VA is fine. It's pretty average. Good extension-ish. Like it's 6.5, which is like essentially if you see like 5.5, it's bad. So 6.5 feet of extension is good. We're cool with that. But then it throws a 102, so it's like, all right, it's fine. We're okay. It is part of the reason why Hunter Greens, by the way, is not as amazing. It is the worst extension too. Oh my gosh. Duran and Hader and Williams went in this round. Same with Clase and Romano. And when Diaz went in the 6th. Something I was talking about with another in one of these other mock drafts. There are so many defined closers this year.
It seems that way, yeah.
And
going into the season at least,
right? Last year we knew like 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have got like 15. It's really strange in this way, and I think it's suppressed closer value because I remember what was it, 2nd round Hader or something stupid I saw.
That was the fear. It's like that there weren't all these set closers, and that if you wanted some kind of stability, if you wanted a floor, you had to go 2nd round.
Right. I remember when Kevin Hastings did that, and I flipped the table. I was like, you just can't tell me that in a 5x5 12-teamer. And I mean, that's the thing, though. I say, okay, cool, I get it. Like these NFBC leagues and everything, that's where he's going, and I get it now. Like this one. We've got 6th round Diaz, the next one's in the 8th, and it felt like we're all looking at each other like, we're cool with this? We all agreed now? We're like in a union. It's great. I love it. This is where closers should be. 9th round. Oh my gosh, you took Cole Ragans from me. How dare you?
Yes.
Twice you
this
did
one might have been on
Pablo
purpose.
And then Ragans. And I took Joe Ryan. And I will say Joe Ryan was ranked 1 higher at the time for me. I think I'm lower on him now, though. I believe it or not. And that's a conversation for another time. Cole Ragans, tell me your thoughts on him.
See, I just wanted to make Cole Ragans a top 100 pick, and this was the 100th pick of the draft, so it worked out perfectly. That's why I wanted the 4th spot. That's
Nothing
why I wanted.
Else.
No, I did the math. Yeah, it's funny. I also was happy to grab him here because I have not been able to pull the trigger on Cole Ragans on any of my other drafts, and it's just how my drafts have worked out. Where I'm at that point, and I'm like, all right, I think I can push him. Granted, I'm also been in two of my 4 drafts I've been in with Kevin Hastings, who has found a way to, as a Royals fan, has found a way to draft Cole Ragans much earlier than I would have anticipated. So
I gotta say,
you gotta know the room.
Brought a smile to my face. Seeing Kevin Hastings wearing the AGA Ragans shirt at First Pitch Arizona. I loved it so much.
It's a good shirt.
It's oh man. It's like one of those times when you design something and you're like, this is the correct answer. So it's so satisfying.
I asked him a question. I asked him a question on our last episode about who, and I'll ask you the same question, like who gets more innings between Cole Ragans and Jordan Lyles right now for the Royals. And sorry, Seth Lugo, who just signed. Not Jordan Lyles, Seth Lugo.
I'm sorry. It's like, why does that matter?
Why is that? That's such a weird question.
Like it might be Jordan Lyles because the Royals won't care and they're just like, yeah, go 6th inning, whatever. No, I mean, it should be Cole Ragans, and I think a lot of the worries about the injury history and stuff I get. I think Seth Lugo is a little more, I don't know. I'm going to say it's Ragans. I think Ragans has more of the complete arsenal, but that's a good question. I hate predicting innings, man. Do
you think that Ragans, I assume he gets up to like the 140, the 150 as long as he's, starting all season, after being just around 100 from last year. Do you think that they do a better job of pulling him back earlier than they did in the second half?
I don't know.
Or if he misses time to get to that 150?
Oh man. So by the way, with Lugo, it was 146 innings last year and 26 starts. He missed some time in the IL. after being a reliever for a bit. He also had some injury stuff before, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just thinking of 2021. I think it's a safer bet to say that Lugo gets more. But I do want to say that I think Ragans' skill set speaks to actually being like a consistent 6-7. Actually, you know what? I take it back. I'll say Lugo because I think Ragans isn't afraid to walk a guy. And I think Seth Lugo is. And I think that generally speaks to less efficiency for Ragans. Like, think of it more like Blake Snell in this way. Not like a 13% walk rate. But I'll give it to Lugo because also, yeah, I'm going to say there is some health risk with Ragans and all. But the cool thing about him, and I've said this many a time, he has 5 pitches that he commands well. He has 5. The hardest part for Ragans for me is we saw it for 80-ish innings or whatever in the majors last year. And is that it? Is that him? Small sample size kills us a lot. And sometimes guys just change over the winter. He's in a certain rhythm at that moment. That's what we saw. But yeah, I'm in. I don't know. I love it. 9th round seal of approval. I don't care.
Fair enough. Number 100 overall.
So good.
There you go.
Like, I mean, this round is so good. Cole Ragans, Joe Ryan, Joe Musgrove, Bobby Miller. Ignore the Scherzer and the Verlander. I've already talked to them about it. No. But, I mean, Bobby Miller at the end of the 9th, I literally thought he was already drafted. And I would have taken him over those guys easily. I gave a hard time to Van Burnett for getting Logan Gilbert, who actually just wrote about this morning. I was like, no, I'm terrified of Logan Gilbert right now. I'm like, that is not as nearly good of a fastball as it needs to be. And the slider saved him a bit in the second half, but there's nothing else really after. Maybe the splitter sometimes and not. You know me, I don't want to rely on that. So like Cole Ragans to me should be ahead of him. Yeah, I'm a fan.
I'm just glad to see some more separation between George Kirby and Logan Gilbert, so you can stop using the Gerby nickname. The Jerby, yeah.
Yeah. Kirby is honestly, I DM'd him today, and hopefully, guys, I'm no promises, but I'm trying to get him on to do one of those one-on-ones because I had a revelation this morning. As I looked into George Kirby, you got to come to live streams, guys. I'm serious. Pitcherlist.com playback.tv/pitcherlist. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time every weekday morning. I go over these players and I show you my exact process, and it completely changes my opinions on a lot of these pitchers because I'm just doing it as thoroughly as possible. So that's a fun story. I'm actually doing Cole Ragans Friday morning. Watch me be like, oh no, never mind. I hate Cole Ragans now. Okay. Jackson Holliday, 10th round. Is he even starting for the Orioles?
At the time that we made this pick, it was still, by all means, it was up in the air. This is what, as Chris Webber said it in our chat, like this was it's time for our statement picks.
Yes. Okay.
And of course he goes Evan Carter right after that.
I don't like Evan Carter. Yeah. That too. That makes me happy.
And so this was, I already have my starting shortstop. This is my Bobby Witt from from 2 years ago when you have, or your Jordan Walker from last year, where you're just like, you're fairly confident that this top end prospect is going to get the ability to start from day one. Since then, the Orioles have come out and said the door is open. That he can fight for a job in spring training. They're not going to say he's going to start in AAA. Not to say that he guarantees a job, but I think the Orioles are pretty happy with that compensation draft pick that they got from Gunnar Henderson winning Rookie of the Year, and so they're probably going to look for that again. And Jackson Holliday has the ability to win back-to-back Rookie of the Years for the Orioles, and then get them another draft pick as a bonus.
Don't push your luck. No. Now tell us more about why you wanted to say the Holiday Inn.
Oh, there it is. I mean, this is a guy that he's been showing in just last season how quickly the Orioles are willing to move him and how he hasn't missed a beat at any particular level. Between starting off in 2023 in low A, going to high A, double A, triple A, a little taste of triple A at the very end, just 75 at bats. But still building up into that power, which is the question mark that everybody has, whether or not it will translate right away at the major league level. But this is a very well-rounded player at a very premium position that if they do give him the position from day one, he should be able to run with it. And you can say the same thing about, Jordan Walker from last year. He didn't, spoiler, he did not run with it from day one.
What?
But I do trust the fact that, Holliday's going to be able to bring, a well-rounded game. And as my backup shortstop on this team to Lindor, I'm pretty happy with it.
Now, I promise everybody, when a hitter is being discussed, I do not just tune out. I listen. I'm there. However, this time, I kid you not, this is just where I am right now. You said high A, and all I thought about was just calling that the Canadian League. And that's just where I'm at right now. I'm just imagining like that stop is not actually playing baseball. It's just greeting a Canadian. And it's just something every player needs to do. There's single A and there's double A, and in between there's high A.
Yeah, it is.
Sonny Gray is next. My gosh, how did I do that one? 2.79 ERA across 184 innings last year. I think a lot of people would be surprised to realize that. 115 whip, 24% K rate. I covered Sonny Gray already, and this is the funniest thing to me. There are times I've been covering these guys for ages, and I still find these new elements about them. He is so intriguing to me. And last year he was a massive discount. I think I certainly undervalued him. And I was able to get him in Tout Wars for like $6 or something like that. And I was shocked by it at the time, and he just quietly produced, and he could very well do that again. 184 innings, of course, is the career high for him. Previous high was 175 in 2019, or at least this is since 2018, of course. About 120 innings though in 2022. That certainly lowered his perception last year. You're certainly back in though with Sonny Gray.
I was a little surprised at myself for being this in. I don't know if this round grabbing Sonny Gray in the 11th is in per se, like strongly in. But I am seeing this is my fourth starter on my team. I'm feeling a little bit more confident in the floor that he's provided, especially after, to your point earlier, it is technically his contract year. He has since signed with St. Louis. Obviously, no idea where he was going to be at the time of this draft, but happy to see him kind of go to. I like how our draft board is already updated as well, where he is. So that's convenient. He's still providing me with the categories that I'm looking for, and he's able to go relatively consistently deep enough into games where I'm not as worried about the team that he was going to go to having a solid bullpen to hold on. Like he can go, that 6 innings on a regular basis. It's not a quality start league, but I still want to be able to see him hold on to that opportunity to gain that win. And then also, obviously, with more innings, gets you more volume, gets you more opportunities for those strikeouts as well. And so, yeah, this is my number 4 guy that I kind of trust to be there throughout the course of the season. And they allowed me to take a little bit more risk with my next pick.
Pablo Lopez is, had a thing that he said. I asked him, hey, when did you start throwing front hip sinkers? And Pablo said, when I started to be on a team with Sonny Gray.
Right.
I thought that was amazing. And Sonny Gray is so intriguing like this because the way he uses that sinker to lefties is great, but he also changed how he throws his 4-seamers. And I mean that by an approach. The Yankees wanted him to throw this pitch upstairs because they said, hey, it's a high spin rate, without understanding that it's a cut fastball. This is a cutter, really, not a 4-seamer. And sure, there are times that you can do the Cannibal McSanchez, which is throwing high cutters out of the zone that come back in the zone for called strikes, but that's not how Sonny works. He goes glove side with that thing all day, and it's so good. And it really does set up that slider and curve underneath it too. It's an interesting game that doesn't always work against right-handers, but it makes me understand Gray more in those adjustments, and it's more believable to me that he had these the Renaissance years post the Yankees was able to kind of do his thing more often. He should throw more sliders for strikes, though. I still don't understand that one. But 12th round, we're going to talk about in a second. He's a guy that I think is your riskier pick that you were just setting up here. And we're going to talk about who that guy is, who I'm interested in and I'm not at the same time. We're going to talk about him after this break.
Kohler Smart Toilets introduce a new standard of design and cleanliness, sculptural forms, intuitive technology, and total personalization with integrated warm water cleansing, heated seats, and warm air dryers. For peace of mind and convenience, there are touchless lids, seats, flush, and a self-sanitizing bidet wand. Now you can even use voice commands with Numi 2.0, featuring built-in Amazon Alexa. Explore the complete lineup at Kohler.com/smart toilets and discover what you've been missing.
Start clean with Clorox, because Clorox delivers a powerful clean every time. Because messes happen. Because...
Hey, honey, you know your dad's world-famous chili. Yeah, the one that takes 24 hours to make. So I was trying to help out and bring the pot to the table, but it was like super hot. And then I dropped it, and now the floor looks all, stained with chili. Look, the point is, you guys cool with pizza for dinner? Honey?
Ooh, yeah, that happens. So start clean with Clorox. Use Clorox products as directed.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
It's Carlos Rodon. Carlos Rodon, obviously just had a lost season. And that's really what you're banking on. 2 amazing years in 2021, 2022 that were not flukes. Clearly not. I mean, we thought it maybe was a fluke in 2021. And then he did it again with an overpowering fastball. And then he got hurt in a different way. It wasn't the shoulder. It was back. And it was all this other stuff. And you're banking a little bit here in the 12th round that, at least you feel that the reward for a 12th round pick like this is worth the risk of it falling out from underneath him again.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like I said, with a solid top 4 starters, my number 5 can be a little bit riskier here. And, I think that Carlos Rodon kind of blends, like the thing you always say about you're going to want to know how a pitcher is going to perform from day one, so that you can make a decision from day one. You don't have to hold on to him throughout the week. And for Carlos Rodon, I think that's either going to be health related. In the beauty of being in a league like this is if it is a strong health related, he can just go on my IL and I don't really lose the roster spot per se. And hopefully, he gets better and he can come back. Or he's showing strength during spring training. I'm going to have at least that ability to kind of see how he's being utilized, what he's throwing, how hard he's throwing, as you always say, where he's sitting, not so much where he's hitting consistently, and what kind of consistency we can see out of him through the month of March before we actually hit April. And I think because, again, he's my 5th starter, I'm going to have a little bit more flexibility to kind of hold the line through the first 2 or 3 starts of the season before I have to make some kind of drastic change.
Yeah, it's weird. Carlos Rodon's 4-seamer. Remember, we have this amazing tool, everyone. If you don't know it, go to our website, and it's the PLV Pitches app. And it lets you just get these amazing charts and information quickly about individual pitches, like its velocity, but also the extension and the IVB, the VAA as well. I actually have something for this now. I can't really, they're like 4 major attributes to me about about pitches themselves, like their shape and stuff, and if they're good or not. So it's like velocity is obviously one of them. It's movement, so it's IVB or the arm side movement too. The extension and the VAA, right? This is outside of location. So I'm calling it the Fantastic 4, like how they fan the flames, or it's just someone. I don't know. I'm going to workshop this. I feel like there's something with 4 and like flame 2 or heat, and I'm sure I'm being really dumb and missing something. This is why I'm putting it out there. But anyway, those are the 4 attributes to me that really make up a fastball. And Carlos Rodon's four-seamer this past year still had amazing IVB. We're talking 17 inches of break, which is so good. If you guys remember that from before. Also 95.3. I mean, it was pretty close to what it used to be. And he had those 2 games at 96 where they were amazing. He had 19 strikeouts in those 2 games in September before he fell down to 94. So to me, that does showcase, wait, this is still a four-seamer that can do all the effective things. He still had an overall 14% swing strike rate. Like, it's not as if Carlos Rodon's four-seamer turned into Logan Gilbert's, okay? Yes, I'm doing that right now. I'm so sorry, Logan Gilbert. In the slider, honestly, it did, for the most part, what it was trying to do. There were a lot of bad ones that he had mistakes with, but as far as like movement profiles and everything like that, yeah, it's the slider that we know. And I honestly kind of feel like he just never got into that groove, and it was still kind of there. He had those moments where Carlos Rodon was the guy. So I hope that a healthy offseason, just a better ramp through spring training, everything just allows him to be that guy. And yeah, as you mentioned, we'll know early. We'll know if he has that like 5-inning, 10 strikeout game, 0 walks in spring training. We go, oh boy, it's coming. We rub our hands together.
And like you said earlier, it is. I mean, I don't know if it's nice to know, but it's just nice to know that his other injuries weren't related to the original. I don't know if they were compensation or if they were related in that way, but at least it wasn't still the same original injury, just being re-injured over and over again.
Yeah, Adam, I might take your lead. Adam, of course, is our director of podcasting here and made a tutorial for everybody on our new podcast hosting service. And all he did is just like use the thing that was sent to us a bit and then just wrote red text over it, and it's great. We got to work on your spelling of immediately.
Yeah, probably.
But we'll get there. No, I'm just kidding. As if I've never made a typo. But I'm tempted to do that for these pitch type charts for you guys, just to put some red text over, be like, this is good, this is bad. And these are going to be free for everyone listening until the end of January. So if you're like, oh no, that's a PL Pro only thing, don't worry. Right now, they are free to use as you do your research. I'm actually going to be publishing an article with FTN, talking a little bit about that more for Vlad's draft guide. I'm really excited to be doing that. But it will be a PL Pro exclusive starting in February. So definitely go and check that out now. They are absurdly helpful for me doing my research, and I'll have that tutorial image as well for everybody to be using to guide them through it. We're going to the 13th round, and we're totally not going to go long on this one. You got another closer, Tanner Scott. And I think Tanner Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, had a lot of really good metrics under the hood.
Yeah, I mean, overall, this guy who ended the season 78 innings and 104 strikeouts. So if you're looking for that, especially in a roto league, that goes a long way. And I granted this is a head-to-head league. All I really care about what my closer is doing is giving me saves. And he has earned the role in Miami in the final month and a half of the season, where he took over for after they traded for David Robertson, and then he took over for that position. AJ Puck had it for a little bit, and they had Dylan Floro kind of fill in throughout the season as well. Floro is now gone. Robertson is also gone. AJ Puck is there talking about the possibility of him being a starter, or at least being stretched out for that option. Tanner Scott is the guy in Miami on a fairly good Miami team. And to be able to provide the added bonus of 100 strikeouts from a closer, he's going to be in your lineup all year round. It's not like somebody you're going to stream in and out. And the fact that as long as he holds on to that job throughout the course of the season, the saves will come on a pretty good Miami team in the NL East.
They're fine.
He's also not somebody that's going to he's not going to come in for 2 batters or 3 the minimum. There's plenty of instances throughout the course of just like the last month and a half where he's going an inning in a third, an inning in 2/3. He's coming in the 8th and then staying through the 9th as well to get those saves.
You know his nickname, right? It's Great Tanner. Okay. No, I mean, he throws a slider 53% of the time, and that slider has a near 70% strike rate with about a 30% ICR, 21% swing strike rate. I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. Oh wait, he also has a 97-mile-per-hour fastball that misses bats too. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yu Darvish is next. Yu Darvish is very interesting, and I'm curious why you're going after him as opposed to say other stabler arms. There's Evaldi here. There's Kelly. Yeah, why Darvish?
I in retrospect, I should have gone Merrill Kelly. I don't know that Nathan Eovaldi is the stable arm that you just named him.
That's very true. Yeah,
Darvish definitely.
I was grasping.
Yeah, he was just the first name on the list. I get it. No, I probably would have went. In hindsight, Merrill Kelly would have been the pick that I'd make here. Again, the guys that I'm looking for right now are going to carry me in that strikeout category, and I will take the risk that Yu Darvish is going to continue to throw anything and everything that he possibly can, and maybe he hurts some of my ratios, especially like my whip, but still being on a hopefully good team. The San Diego Padres, they're a little different now than they were at the end of last season. Just a touch. They have a whole lot more pitching, I guess, is one can look at it, as they took all those pitchers from the Juan Soto trade. But I mean, I'm still all but guaranteed that Yu Darvish in any given week, even in a 1-start week, I can see anywhere between 5 and 10 strikeouts from him throughout the week. And in head-to-head league, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, Darvish is strange because he has such a good fastball. He really does. He just can't elevate it. I mean, he has the makings of it. It has 16 to 17 inches of rise. That's what you want. Actually, really good VAA, 1.5. 95-mile-per-hour velocity, good extension. Like, this should be a four-seamer that misses tons of bats. It's just he doesn't get it upstairs. 8% swing strike rate last year. And it's just, dude, you got to do this. There was a game. There was this game against the Jays, and I covered it for the YouTube channel. It's amazing. It's essentially the dream Darvish start that I've been asking for all season about. Don't give in. Utilize the four-seamer only upstairs. Utilize only the sinker inside to right-handers. Utilize a ton of cutters for strikes and sliders out of the zone, and do not just throw that 2-1 fastball, whatever. Here you go. And he was brilliant. And I was like, great, this is who he is now. This is it. And then he just went like sinker slider the next game. And I was like, what is going on? What is life? And I think what I kind of came to terms with is I don't know if Darvish knows what is going to work on a given day. And I think he has such a deep repertoire, but it's rare that he actually really, focuses heavily on the entire palette in a given game. So it's more of like, cool, among these, let's see what works the most. I'm going to go with that. And, I have many wishes for Christmas, but one of the major ones is for Darvish to find like the 3 pitches that he's like, no. I'm not going to actually try and change the shape of my slider 20 times. I'm just going to have this one of them. I'm going to have this amazing four-seamer upstairs, and I'm going to have this cutter I throw to, and maybe some sinkers for surprises. Like that, just saying this is what I do, and I'm just going to be only good at that. I hope he can do. I feel
can he do that? Like, is he just the type of person, the type of player that can or wants to?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I also look at last year and I see, man, this guy all of a sudden had like a 9 hit per 9 after just not doing that since forever. And that seems weird. I don't really think that is who Yu Darvish is suddenly. And I see a 4.56 ERA, which is the highest since 2018. And I go, well, no. So I'm in the 14th round, I think. I don't know if I actually love Merrill Kelly all too much either. So, I mean, there's obviously risk with Yu Darvish here, but I mean, really, like he's been a rock star as far as starts go for a while. Really, last year with 24 starts was the low because it was essentially max starts for the previous 4 years. And that's pretty cool. I hate that we have to say that because it was 12 starts in 2020. Otherwise, it was 30 starts regularly. So it's like, right. Yeah, but it's max starts, I just want to say at least 30 starts. Sorry. I'm in a weird 10:40 at night mode. We're going to move on Yu Darvish, 14th round. Yeah, I'm in. Salvador Perez, catcher. Catcher was weird. We realized kind of as a collective group, wait a second, we don't really need to be jumping for catchers. I kind of thought that everyone after I took Real Muto in the 10th would just not do it. I understand Yanner Diaz by Joe Galena. I'm excited to talk to him about that. You took Perez. Why Perez?
I mean, I couldn't agree more with a lot of the takes that you've had conversations with the other guys that are in the draft that are picking in the 23rd round. I mean, we had two starting catchers go in the final round of this draft. A whole bunch of other ones went really, really late.
Yeah, there was Chad Young's is I think the best example of him talking about two catchers he wanted. It was great. I'll just take whichever one is there, and both were there. The last pick of the draft,
and there's still some left. To his point, that we can all consider. If I'm going to pick a catcher, I guess in the top 15 rounds, I wanted to be somebody that I trust is going to get at-bats outside of the catcher position. And Sal Perez is going to be able to spend most of his time at DH for the Royals on a team that is sneakily getting actually better.
Both naturally and have a bad young offense 1 year, and everyone goes, oh, now they're bad.
Yep.
And they're going to be better. Same with the Tigers. They're going to be better.
So especially in these head-to-head leagues as well, I never mind having a catcher who has eligibility in another position. He has gained that first base eligibility with Vinny Pasquantino being out most of the season last year. He was kind of forced into that role, filling in. So he's got that. So I always like having the flexibility.
Sorry, Bellinger.
He's not playing anywhere else. But on those days, on those weeks where I've got a Monday, Thursday off or something like that, it's definitely a strategy you have to think about, especially when it comes down into the playoffs.
Now, I mean, of course, catcher is not really going to be the one that's like I have two catchers to fill. So Salvador is going to be there. But I understand the idea of the utility, especially in head-to-head leagues. Alexander Chase wrote this really great piece for us about this, saying, look, in your head-to-head leagues, in a given week, the most valuable thing is to ensure you have the most plate appearances on Mondays and Thursdays. It's not starters, which of course, instantly I was like, how dare you consider that my value is lowered inside of this field? And I gave him some pushback just saying, look, I think the first 2 months of the year are more valuable to have your hands in more pots for pitchers. Because I think it's easier for us to understand who's having a breakout in April and May as a pitcher. But maybe even you can say April, easier dart throws to chase. But then once you actually get something settled, then you got to switch your bench spots to hitters because that's how you win weeks. And I couldn't agree more about that. I mean, obviously it's harder in a weekly league. In your daily leagues, you got to be thinking about that a lot. I mean, pretty much you should be switching from like first 4 days should be a hitter streamer. And then the last 3 should be a pitcher streamer. If you can do that, then you've done some good stuff. I'm not going to take Salvi. I'm so sorry. I'm going to take Cal Raleigh in the 20th round instead, I think. Or I'm going to take Francisco Alvarez or Sean Murphy or just whatever else is there. But I get it. Plate appearances win, and that's a cool thing. Maybe not Sean Murphy. Charlie Morton and Andrew Abbott. I'm going to stack these guys together here because he went 2 pitchers. And honestly, you go my route of like, look, you have a lineup. Sure, you have to fill in your 2 utility spots, but you'll get there. It's fine. Those are easy ones to find off the wire. So you're just going to try and chase as many things as you can. So Charlie Morton, at the time, we didn't know if he was going to retire or not. He had a 2-year deal with Atlanta, and pretty much when he signed it at the end of 2022, we didn't know if he was going to retire. Then he signed the 2-year deal, and we're like, well, okay, he'll do 1 and then make another decision. Seems like he's back. Are you worried at all, though? Because, I mean, Charlie Morton had a terrible 143 whip last year at 11.6% walk rate. Why are you chasing Charlie Morton here?
I mean, you're chasing wins. I mean, you're chasing a pitcher that if I'm not mistaken, Atlanta picked up. I think it was Atlanta's option to pick up, and they picked that up. And so he's officially, on the roster. He has not said otherwise. He's going to retire instead. He's going to take the money and run. And he's going to be in that rotation. I mean, we saw the trouble that Atlanta went through all season dealing with injuries, as a lot of teams do, but Atlanta's kind of was in the spotlight just because of how good of a team they were overall, both in record and just on the field. As long as he's in the rotation, as long as he's healthy, he's going to put himself in a position. So I'm happy to chase those wins that Atlanta's going to provide him. Strikeouts are still there. The ratios are scary, especially in a head-to-head league. Those blowups can lose you a week, at least in those categories that he showed us from last season. I'm going to be a little bit quicker, I think, on the trigger to kind of stream him in and out when possible, especially early on in the season. If it just, if we're seeing more of what we saw, especially in those later games or in the middle of the season, really last year. But I'm happy to, at this point in the draft and where my rotation is at, I'm happy to chase those counting stats.
Yeah, I'm worried, man. I'm so worried. Charlie, it's funny. I've mentioned this a couple of times. 2021, it took until May for Charlie Morton to wake up. 2022, it took until June. I was like, all right, as a joke, it's going to take us until July. And it did for Charlie Morton this past year. And the cutter was a less reliable pitch. It used to be something that would flirt with a 70% strike rate, and it was a 59% last year. Not really like a major 20% plus strike usage, more like 10%, but that was the reliable, okay, I need a strike, here it is. You didn't have that, and that's a major reason why the walk rate went up. You also have with the curveball much less in the zone than it used to be. It used to be around 40%, just down to about 35-36% now. Fewer strikes on that. The fastball is getting tagged 44% ICR. Remember, ICR being ideal contact rate. Essentially, was it a good thing for the hitter that contact was made in play? And getting closer to 50%, we want to see like under 40 and closer to 35. Those are the good pitches. 44 is, oh boy, if you're throwing that 32% of the time as your main fastball. And this is getting awfully close to the Wasker-Inoue rule of just having a good breaking ball and nothing else. And I don't think it gets better. It's Charlie Morton. He's 40 years old, Adam.
There's no ceiling. I get that.
Well, it's more about the floor just keeps going down. And I'm worried about it. I totally get, like, look, 16th round. Who goes after this? Seth Lugo, Emmett Sheehan, Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott, Nestor Cortez, etc. I would take Nestor Cortez. I think there's a lot more of a tangible understanding of how this plays out. I would even say that if Charlie Morton looks good for the first couple of weeks, you still are not, like, then he has 2 bad starts. You don't know what to do. And 14 wins last year for Charlie Morton. I think he got fortunate a little bit with that. So, I mean, it is Atlanta, so fine. But yeah, I just can't do it. I think he's just going to drive me up the wall.
He's the hipster, right?
He is. He is a headache-inducing pitcher, stifling the entire roster. It is interesting. 26 of his 30 starts came with the decision. Good old LeBron decision there. And I don't know what that means. That's just interesting. I think that does show his volatility, 14 and 12. So not the guy that I'm going to be circling in my drafts. And yeah, you just got to think it's going to get worse. I know that's ageist, but like, guys, there's a reason we do that.
There's so few. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Scherzer and Verlander are worse. Why? I don't know. Sorry. Andrew Abbott is the next round, is not going to be someone that you're ageist of because he is a youngin'. He is just 24 years old. Will turn 25 in June. Had his rookie season last year across 109 innings. Was sparkling out of the gate, and then not so much. It was kind of rough for a couple starts. He would have these like 6 earned run games, and you could say the last 8 games or so he did get it back together a bit, but we don't know what we're going to get right now from Andrew Abbott.
No, I think this was a gut pick on my part, as I have him on my dynasty team at my home league.
I see. So some bias.
So it's a little bit of bias,
Oh my gosh,
built
you're bringing
into this
that in
one.
here?
But I would like to also think that, that sophomore season of a pitcher like Abbott can, he can learn from a lot of the things that he went through and come back stronger out of the other side. Also somebody that I think that early on in the season, I'll be able to make a decision pretty quickly. Again, based on the rotation that I put together and the floor that I have on the, my top 4 or 5 guys, that I'm able to kind of make those decisions quickly about somebody like Abbott, who's not in the best park, obviously, for any pitcher in Cincinnati, still learning as he's going. And, I'm holding on to the fact that he did have such a strong start, as you mentioned, put in some struggle, and then came back the other side a little bit better at the other end. You love to see that aspect.
I do. That's one of the things I talk about a lot is rookies when they're past their first wave of adversity and having success. I buy that in more. Yeah.
So cross my fingers.
Cross your fingers. It's not that great of a heater, and the command of it got worse as the season went on. I want to think that the breaker's good enough. I think it was like it focused on a curve, and then he went to a slider with it. But neither one, I take that back. The curveball had a 31% CSW. The 28% was on the slider. ICR is really good on that slider. PLV loves it, 5.52. And I hope that can turn into that big CSW, just try me pitch. But seeing a 46% ICR and a 45% on the curveball, 46 is on the 4-seamer is, oh boy, in that kind of park. And I'm seeing him not really as the best command guy. 10% walk rate last year for Andrew Abbott. Like, this is worrisome to me. And I see this more as a cherry bomb that, again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make a decision. I want decisions. My team is filled with good decisions or bad decisions, but I'll know what they are, right? Paxton and Maeda, I'll probably know early. Nestor Cortez, I'll know. But Abbott, I don't. You're going to be, just give your guys the favor in 2024 of just having less anxiety, less unknown, less conflict internally. It's the way that you deserve. We're going to move on to Criag Kimbrel, who's now in Baltimore. And you made this pick just thinking, he's going to sign somewhere and be a closer, right? Easy.
I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking. I've been talking about it on every other episode of On the Wire, how confident I was that Kimbrel not only was going to sign somewhere, but I kept saying the only place that makes the most sense was Baltimore for him to sign a 1-year deal with Felix Bautista, obviously out for the entire season. Kimbrel being who he is, it's been pretty obvious when he's in a position where he's not the closer, he's just not as comfortable. It's just not who he wants to be. And he's weaseled his way back into closer positions at pretty much every stop that he's made. Even in Philadelphia, he pretty much owned that role for the majority of last season. And so now, it's nice to say in hindsight that, he's got that role in Baltimore locked in. Yennier Cano, as good as he was most of the season, they're not going to be putting him in that role when they're going to pay Kimbrel the money that they're they're giving him exactly as a stopgap to getting Felix Bautista back.
Now, with where Kimbrel is signed, which is Baltimore, which is, I think, honestly, as good of a spot as you could possibly hope for.
Sure, 100-win team. Yeah.
Where do you think his value should be inside this draft? Because this is obviously a seal of approval on the 18th. You did it. You got it.
This is why I wait to do this recording until after some of these are made.
Everybody is just here for the seals.
Yeah, I mean,
it's SeaWorld.
I mean, there's that's the only thing you go for SeaWorld.
That's it. That's all I got.
At the least, he should be switched with Yennier Cano, and Cano went in the 14th round.
Okay, in the 14th.
Right around, Tanner Scott, Evan Phillips.
I mean, him or Ryan Presley.
I'm probably taking Kimbrel.
Yeah, I think so too.
I just trust that Kimbrel will be not only in the role all year, in retrospect, in Baltimore, Baltimore, Houston, fine. Those
Honestly,
are.
the stuff is still good.
In Presley, I just don't trust that he's going to be healthy all season either.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Evan Phillips.
Evan Phillips, as good as he was in 2022, he was also very good in 2023. I lean back onto the idea that he is still arbitration eligible, and the Dodgers, as much flexibility as they were given from their recent signing of Ohtani, they still need to spend more money, and they have to think about how they're going to spend their money, whether or not they're going to spend it at that closer position.
I'm buying that. I screwed up. Okay, so we're going to move on to Aaron Ashby, 19th round. So here's the thing, guys. Aaron Ashby missed all of last season. And 2021, I was so excited. The old joke is coming up to Boston to hang out with the Pitcherless meetup. We all went to Fenway. It was a great time. And in the restaurant after, while we're all hanging out, I actually had my phone up because I'm watching Aaron Ashby start from that day. I couldn't wait until I got home. Say, hey guys, it's really great to see you. Let me watch Aaron Ashby. Great, thanks. It was only like 22 pitches or something like that. It was that weird game against the Cubs. And I was so excited then, but he got so much worse in 2022. A lot more poor contact allowed. The slider got shellacked. It just wasn't quite there. And then he had this shoulder injury where he missed all of 2023. This pick is saying, look, I think Milwaukee's going to be in a situation where they're going to start him out of camp. And you like him, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, he's the final starting starter from possible starter, I guess, of my rotation here. And I'd like to see what he does in spring training. I would like to see how Milwaukee handles him. Milwaukee has been all the rumors around whether or not Milwaukee is going to make some more make some trades to free up some different positions, may provide more opportunity in the rotation for Ashby. Sure. And so, it really depends on how much he's stretched out, what he actually puts forth. How many walks he gives up in spring training and then how they use him.
Sorry. There's something about the phrase put forth to me that is just so funny. I love it. And it's as I can also see it as like judges saying like, no, they do not belong on the podium.
They're fourth.
Yeah. But
just put them fourth.
What were the odds of Wade Miley signing with the Brewers? Because I feel like that was like the Mandela effect almost of everyone knew he was already a Brewer.
He was already, you just assumed he was, I thought he was already signed there.
Yeah, right. But as of now, it looks like those are the top three of Burns, Peralta, and Miley. Then you have Adrian Hauser, who I think is just going to be doing it. The interesting thing is that Robert Gasser is here too. And so is Colin Ray. Jansen Jack we're not going to talk about. Jacob Mizorowski is also there, but AA and command is a little weird, but the stuff is insanely good with him.
Yeah, we saw him in the Futures game. That was
unbelievable.
Crazy.
Like 101 and then like an absolute tight, beautiful slider. It's insane. Robert Gasser was initially someone I was not in on because I thought of him as more of a lefty slinging type. And he actually isn't. He's kind of interesting. And he has a good slider. And I think a fastball that can do really well upstairs. It's super great VAA with Gasser. So that might be an interesting battle. They might want to go with Gasser instead of Ashby, just because Ashby might need more time to make sure that he's okay with his shoulder. Then the question becomes, well, is Adrian Hauser the only thing in his way? And that's like, yeah, all right. The Brewers are going to brew, which is them saying, hey, can you give us 5 innings of like 3 earned runs? You, my man, $10 million. Like that. That is Milwaukee, right? They're so content with that. And I don't think that they'll disrupt it until there's an injury or something else happens. So with this pick here, you're doing this in October, 19th round, you would just drop him. Sure. And I get that. I'm also looking here. I'm seeing that we allowed Mitch Keller to go in the 21st round. And oh my gosh, I have changed my tune on Mitch Keller a lot. I'm starting to buy back in, and that's another tale for another time. But yeah, it is interesting to see. Okay, here's the land of guys who might be dropped before the season starts, right? And we're trying to figure out who are the ones that we're going to be circling. I don't think it's going to be Ashby for me. I don't think he can survive with just that sinker. I don't think we're going to see the 2021 version of it in the smaller sample. And it's just not enough. You can't these days be a sinker guy for the most part. It's really hard. I mean, to be consistent in fantasy, like you got to be more forcing focused. And if not, then you have to have like two absurd secondaries. Ashby's slider can be. The changeup isn't consistent enough. So he's got some work.
Kohler Smart Toilets introduce a new standard of design and cleanliness, sculptural forms, intuitive technology, and total personalization with integrated warm water cleansing, heated seats, and warm air dryers. For peace of mind and convenience, there are touchless lids, seats, flush, and a self-sanitizing bidet wand. Now you can even use voice commands with Numi 2.0, featuring built-in Amazon Alexa. Explore the complete lineup at Kohler.com/smarttoilets and discover what you've been missing.
Start clean with Clorox because Clorox delivers a powerful clean every time. Because messes happen. Because the charcoal mask. Great, because why would I put that on my face when I could drop it in my sink? This is what I get for multitasking. Ugh, why is charcoal so sticky?
Hello?
Hey, Janice. I am so sorry. I thought I was on mute. No, we don't need to reschedule. I'll just stay off camera. Ooh, yeah, that happens. So start clean with Clorox. Use Clorox products as directed.
When it comes to teaching kids and teens about money, practice makes perfect. That's where Greenlight comes in. With a debit card and money app of their own, kids learn to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest. Parents send instant money transfers, create custom chores, and automate allowance, while kids track their spending, set savings goals, and practice money skills they can use today and for life. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
To do. Gavin Lux is next. 23rd. Last four here. I forgot Gavin Lux existed.
Yeah, he wasn't in the database. I had to enter him in manually.
Oh, man. Clicky draft. No. Kyle Kraft, I want to give him a shout out, by the way. Every single year I bother him. I say, Kyle, can you please open up Clicky draft for us? We're doing this thing. And he knows it, and he's there, and we support him every year. What Clicky draft does for mock drafts, it is the easiest one by far. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. You guys should be using it for all your mock drafts. I can't express it enough. For any snake draft, just use Clicky Draft. Thank you very much, Kyle Kraft. But yeah, Gavin Lux, get in the database.
I realized I didn't have a second baseman yet.
Oh boy!
Throughout this entire draft, no, I realized that like 4 or 5 rounds prior, and so I just leaned into it, to be honest. And I realized
you saw Jimenez go.
I saw Jimenez go, and I'm like, all right. Even Jordan Westberg was gone. It's like, all right, we're getting to that point where I thought about going Zach Geloff in Oakland after what he was able to do in his rookie season, and then. All right, fine. Let's just go with it. And so I'm like, all right, I see Brandon Lau and Gavin Lux and Thairo Estrada still on the board. Finally, Brandon Lau goes. All right, fine. I'll just get the sneaky play just so I can, type in somebody's name. And the thing is, he missed the entire season after being injured in spring training. In all expectations is that he's perfectly healthy. Love seeing the report that they expect him to be the starting shortstop for the Dodgers by opening day, assuming that they're going to spend any remaining money on their rotation or in their pitching staff that they have and run with it. He is not flashy. I don't expect a whole ton of power, but I expect him not to hurt me in any way. And second base, as difficult as you might think it is, the replacement value at this point in the draft on what I might see somebody kind of come through the woodwork in late April is an easy kind of switcheroo in off the wire. So
yeah, for me, the second baseman that I'm circling as like, okay, I've made it through the first like 6-7 rounds without a second baseman for whatever reason. What do? It's Nolan Gorman for me. I think his decision value and power is legitimate, and contact ability is there. It's interesting actually. I initially, my thought process was of the 3 main PLV hitting stats, power, contactability, and decision value. I was in favor of, essentially power to me is the most important one. And then between decision value and contactability, I saw that Judge had super high decision value and like 35 contactability. And that I was like, okay, cool, there's your model. That's the one. But hearing Scott Chu talk on Bench with Bubba, they went on, it was great. He talked about winning charts and everything like that. And of course, Bubba's the best.
Of course.
Chu was saying, look, like if you have amazing contactability, it doesn't matter what your decision value is because you're making contact. And if you have a ton of power and you're making a ton of contact, who cares what the pitch was? And I sat there and went, well, I'm an idiot. This is why I don't do hitters. But no, and so I was really in on Gorman because of the decision value and power. But I still feel like if you have two of the three, I think the hardest one to get is power. I think that's just innately like just really hard to find if you're able to do good decisions and you can make contact. And it's just like, I'm sorry, man, you're just not going to hit it hard. And that's just, you're not really made to be that. But decision value, I feel like is a mental thing. While contactability, I think, is an actually easier thing to pull away from power to do. And there's an easier balance, I think, to have with those. Obviously, of course, with contactability and power too, but I think guys are less inclined to take away contactability for power.
Sure. While
I think the other way that they can, right? So something to think about there. Gorman, to me, is a big upside play, especially this late in the 12th teamer. He went in the 17th. I'm curious if there's anyone else that you're like, okay, that's the one I would go for. Like Edward Julian. Actually, like he has really good PLV marks too.
Yeah, the guy I've been targeting the most in the other drafts that I've done has been Gleyber Torres, based on just where he's been going. He's been going a little bit later than we saw him go in the 8th round here. Yeah. Usually able to grab him in the 9th or 10th round in a 12th teamer. Man,
that's going to be such a good RBI producer.
I had one draft where I was able to grab Hung Sung Kim and Gleyber Torres, but they were 2 rounds apart. And I was just like, and Kim went first. I took Kim first, waited 2 rounds, and then Torres.
Yeah. What's interesting about Torres too, I think, might get overlooked, is because Juan Soto is a lefty. You might see Gleyber shoot up the order if it's say like Judge first, Soto second, Torres third, and then you put Rizzo behind him for that reason, right? Gleyber's got to be in that top 4 of that lineup, and like not at the first or second. That's great. I'm a huge fan of that in 8th round, so that's a good call there. We've got 3 to go, and Adam's like, please, Nick, we've been going for so long. It's Robbie Ray. Oh, hey, what's up, man?
Hey, you exist.
Robbie Ray could pitch in 2023. Tell me about this. Sorry, 2024.
There we go. You got there.
Well, he did. He pitched like 2 games, so he did pitch in 2023. Look at me, I'm so smart. He could pitch next year. He got his Tommy John, I believe, on May 3rd. So that means around July or so is what you're hoping for, likely more or so around August. But talk to me about Robbie Ray.
I just have a soft spot for Robbie Ray. There's an IL spot in this league, so I'm going to take advantage of it.
He told me that he has a soft spot for you. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I'm glad it's mutual.
Right.
I don't wear my pants as well as Robbie Ray does.
I thought we were just going to end it like, I don't wear my pants as well. Like, as in, me too. I was like, what? This is not. Oh, I see. Right. He doesn't wear his. Yeah.
Sure. Robbie, there's something to be said. Obviously, he's coming back from the type of surgery that he had. You worry about Robbie Ray's calling card was not so much control. Was the last, of course, everybody says the last thing that comes back from Tommy John
read
is
my thing
control.
This morning, Adam.
Yeah, it's almost as if I've heard this before from you and many, many others. So there's that. The fact is that I'm willing. Again, is in the bottom 3 rounds of this kind of a draft. I'm not sweating pretty much anybody that came after this. I'm like, oh, I really wish I had them. And there's a couple of interesting names, obviously, but I'm at the same time, it's like, I'm willing to kind of throw the dice and see what happens here.
Yeah. I get it. I'm not really the kind of guy that goes after that IL pitcher. because I just generally feel like you're not going to survive 3+ months without like holding on to Robbie Ray. I'd just be so shocked. And I think this is a moment where you really need to understand yourself and your tendencies, because be honest. When it's May 15th and you've heard some reporter like, oh, Robbie Ray may be starting to throw again, and all of a sudden you don't have an IL spot for the guy that went on the IL.
Fair.
Are you going to drop Robbie Ray or not? And the answer is you should, but you're not.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not touching Robbie Ray in any of my NFBC leagues.
Well, that's a different
because I
thing,
don't
right?
have the
That's
IL
the
spot.
You know, but I'm talking about like a 12 teamer where like you have, now let's say you have 2 IL spots.
Sure.
And now you have a 3rd IL and you're like 2 months away from Robbie Ray being there. And that's like, you're hoping for that. And as you mentioned, there is no guarantee that Robbie Ray is throwing like enough pitches to be valuable right away and being at the level that you need him to be at. His command was the biggest thing for years. We were like, okay, we don't know what we're going to expect. He gets into a rhythm, then he's just bad. The Mariners did figure something out, and they did this across their staff, of pairing sinkers with 4-seamers and making those sinkers that by all pitch models don't look good much better because they play really well off of the 4-seamer as surprise offerings. I'm never going to get behind Robbie Ray throwing these outside sinkers to righties. I never will. But the fact that he used them effectively inside of lefties, especially when he's going upstairs with the 4-seamer, then surprise, it's more inside. All in on that, right? It's what Brian Wu does, and it's cool. So I do think that's the way that he's mitigated a little bit of those command issues, is that he's added that sinker. It's helped him. Still, 8% walk rate in 2022. We started to see some cracks in it. 119 whip, 371 ERA in 2022. I remember saying, okay, cool. Like, I think I'm in on Robbie Ray. I think the fastball is good enough. It's a good situation. I'm still in around like, I think it was like 25th starter for me last year. It's still just like, well, now these has to relearn everything, and I can't quite buy that he's gonna be so effective right away. So just be honest with yourself about like write the plan in an envelope and seal it and have it on your desk for when you say, when I have too many IL spots open.
I like that.
You know?
I like this.
And you have to read it and be like, if it's this date, if he's X amount away, these are the conditions of which I will keep Robbie Ray, and listen to it. That's all I ask, everyone.
Yeah, there. I like the plan. That's a fun plan.
I don't trust myself in the slightest.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, even those 2 months, there are so many good pitchers that can produce in those 2 months. I remember even in 2022, Miles Michaelis was on so many of my teams, only because I had an open spot because someone got injured or whatever. And he had a good matchup that week. I was like, fine. And then he had another good matchup. I was like, fine. And they just kept going, and just Vargas ruled it, and then it never ended. And that happens all the time. Bryce Elder was so good for so many of you for like 3 months. This is what happens. And if you hold on to Robbie Ray thinking like, well, it's going to be worth it at some point, you might be going after for like 5 weeks worth of production for the entire time. And you might be wasting out on things that could not last just that time before he gets back on the field. Almost said pitch. My gosh. You're also missing it beforehand too. So I'm just saying, don't do it. Don't play the game. Okay. Just trust yourself. Who are either of these two guys? I don't even.
I love it.
Who are they?
They're hitters, first of all, just so I make sure you knew what the color coding meant. Ceddanne Rafaela of the Red Sox and Orelvis Martinez. I just wanted to pick the best names that were still left on the board. Actually, I had to type in Orelvis Martinez because obviously he hasn't made his debut yet. But Ceddanne Rafaela. I got debating
what his first name should be. They said another one. They said Orelvis.
Well, I guess that's what they heard.
I'm so
it was
sorry,
a transcription.
Orelvis.
It was a transcription, and then they put it on the
No. I'm just joking. I'm so sorry.
But with Rafaela, I mean, he made quite a splash throughout the minor leagues in 2023. Finally, the Red Sox, gave him the cup of coffee at the end of the year. Played a lot of center field. Had 5 starts at shortstop. So in Yahoo keeps that eligibility going into 2024. There's also a hole in at second base for the Red Sox that they have.
There's your second base
that they have mentioned that they are not going to go out and spend on. So there's a possibility that Rafaela comes in and he's able to get some middle infield reps while playing playing center field when Jhoan Duran needs an out. Now, of course, you go and read Jeff Silverman's Mining the News, because if you're not doing that, I don't know what you're doing in the off season. But there's the reports that there's a strong possibility that Rafael plays in AAA to start the season to work on some more offense, as it kind of struggled a little bit as he made the adjustments into Major League. Never heard that.
You don't mean defense?
No, I know I had to read the article a couple times because it was a weird thing to read, because his defense is elite. Up the middle, and like as you can see from his experience just in the major leagues in the short period of time that he was there, playing 5 games at shortstop, playing a handful of games at second base, playing another 20 or so in center field, he can definitely do all of that. And this is the second to last pick of the draft. Something happens. Yeah. Now, I was really excited when Verdugo got traded, and I'm like, oh, great. Now there's more opportunity for Rafaela to play, and maybe even Willie Abar. But then, like 4 days later, they traded for Tyler O'Neill to replace him.
Yeah, so. Right. I remember that. I remember that Twitter swarm.
What's
interesting here is you have Orelvis Martinez, and you were kind of hoping, I think, that maybe there were some whispers of Bo Bichette getting traded, something like that. That would open up this the AAA hitter, third base, shortstop is what I see on Fangraphs. 28 home runs across about 115 games last year, across AA and AAA for Orelvis. That's pretty enticing, and you're hoping that maybe you can find a spot still for maybe Davis Schneider.
If anything, I'm expecting if they don't replace Matt Chapman at third base, that there's an opening or direct opening there, and they continue to have Kevin Biggio kind of move around, as Biggio did some good things toward the end in the second half of last year. Still not quite sure that he did enough to solidify an everyday role at a certain position. Martinez, with as many struggles as he had, with his batting average, with his strikeout rate, made some pretty consistent strides over the course of last year at AA and AAA, going down from the 28.5% strikeout rate in 2022 at AA, going all the way down to 20% in AA before getting moved up to AAA. Still at 26.8% to end the year at AAA in the strikeout rate department. Won't translate that well into the majors right away, but even if he starts in AAA, I'd like to see that go down just the same way he did at AA. And I'll feel a lot better about it. But I think that Martinez, taking the course that he's already had with the Blue Jays, he has a strong chance of making the opening day roster with a very strong spring if they don't plug holes at third base, if they don't get a solid everyday second baseman to replace Schneider as well. He does have that flexibility. I do not see him playing shortstop anymore. I think that he makes a position change in general, but that power is not something I did the same thing with Adam Barger, his teammate last year, and that did not work out. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. So
that's cool. It's
fine. So we did it. We did it, Adam. Through all my delirium, you put up with me. All of you listening, thank you so much for enduring my gauze mouth accent. I don't know. It's weird. Adam, scale of 1 to 23. How do you feel about this team?
I don't love it.
Man, that's not on my scale. Respect my scale.
No, and you respect your 1 to 23. It used to be 117. I liked when you updated it to 1 to 23
because it makes sense.
Yeah, there's 23.
But also 1 to 17, I say all the time in public because that's it really makes you think. People just like, oh, I'm a 7. Like they know that one, and it's like, I don't know.
Got to do the ratio math. Well, I only got 2 seals of approval. I was a little disappointed in that. But at the same time,
you'd be better.
Got to do better than that. All right, out of
Well,
23,
let me-
I mean,
hold
I'll give
on, hold on
myself,
a second.
I'll give this team because of the drafts that I've done.
You know that, right?
Hmm?
5. You really should have. Okay, so Pablo Lopez, Royce Lewis. I'm going to give it to you for Cole Ragans.
You gave it to me. Yeah, that's the default. That's the default.
And then I like the Darvish one, Criag Kimbrel.
Oh, that's right. I got
yeah,
Kimbrel. I forgot the Kimbrel one. All right.
So you did good. Don't worry.
Oh, I'll give myself, because I have drafted a lot of these guys in the other drafts that I've picked on different teams. So it's not as though I'm not out on all these players. I think it's just the combination of the players that I picked, especially in the second half of my draft, that I don't necessarily love. So we'll go out of 23, we'll say 13.
13. Okay. And last question I'm going to ask you, looking at all the other picks, which is your favorite pick that someone else took that you look back and go, oh man, that was so good? And why is it Shota Imanaga in the 18th round?
Yeah, right. I am really, I want to hear more about I haven't listened in depth into your take on him yet, but we talked to,
I haven't really talked too much about it.
We talked to Jake Maish on an episode recently on The Wire, and
I've had some conversations, man.
He's not looking like he's expecting him to translate all that well.
Interesting.
Coming over in his first season, so we'll see. Yamamoto, on the other hand, a lot of positive stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Yamamoto to me is a more complete pitcher.
Sure.
The crazy thing about Shota Imanaga is, I mean, he has 4 pitches. He's a command guy, and it's like a low walk rate too. I mean, Yamamoto's was really low, but at first glance, it's like, well, he's a command guy. He shouldn't really have any strikeouts. But then you realize, wait, hold on. He has a forkball, which is good. It's a good one. It works. Change up, lefty. He has a big curveball he trusts. His fastball, which is a low 90s to mid 90s four-seamer, is apparently just like incredibly good at getting whiffs upstairs. And I wish I had the data. I don't. He also has a slider that I watched all of his WBC start against not the Yankees. Might as well be the USA team. Same thing, right? And the one mistake he made was a slider that didn't get down and in enough. It had too much sweep and not enough drop to Trey Turner. Trey Turner was beat on it, but Trey Turner was so locked in, he was able to slow down his bat enough to keep it fair over the wall. Number 1 stuff plus of all pitchers in the WBC. And that is the thing that just sticks with me, because I watched Shoto and I didn't see a guy that was battling himself. Like, sure, that was a mistake slider, but he was doing all the things he really wanted to do. And that normally speaks like a Toby to Holly kind of guy, right? Like a 20% strikeout rate, maybe 21, 22 or something. But then to see that he had the number 1 stuff plus, like, that is, wait, hold on a second. That was so alarming to me. Now, you guys know this. Stuff plus, it's not the end all be all, right? There are certain times that, cool, it labels one guy's stuff plus being really good, and, it doesn't always work. I mean, same with PLV, maybe even more so because we have a location involved in it. But still, you don't just get number 1 stuff plus and like have bad stuff.
Right. That's not usually how it works. Yeah.
That's really my point here. And I think he's just getting so overlooked. I don't really see Imanaga being like 120 innings or something. Like, whatever team gets him is going to start him every 5 days probably, or maybe they might extend into a 6-man, something like that, give him at least early on some extra rest. But like, if you say, cool, 150 innings, Imanaga, right? Whose name is I'm an AGA, by the way. Yeah, with clearly strikeout ability and good command, like, I feel like you have a really good ERA and whip floor with like possible 25% strikeout rate. Like, wait, hold on a second. I want this everywhere. You are not like, you're going to draft Shota Imanaga and not drop him the entire year. You're not going to drop him. And that's a huge deal. I talk about it a lot. You want to get 4 guys you are not dropping the entire year. I don't feel that you're going to get like a 20% or under strikeout rate from him. So that's my take right now, just from everything I've read and talked to people about and stuff. I could be very wrong. I haven't really gotten the chance to see him go against Major League pitching. I don't have the absurd data that I get for everybody else who's pitched in the majors, but it feels like, yeah, why wouldn't, like, it's better Kodai Senga to me. Kodai Senga, sure, you could say like, oh, the strikeouts were more flowing for him, but I think the command is better with Imanaga. The fastball and the cutter that Senga has, I know the velocity is there for the fastball, but it's not really like a whiff pitch, and the cutter's okay. I feel like Imanaga is just a safer version of that. I don't know. It's kind of wild.
I think that my favorite pick wasn't made, and it's in hindsight because he wasn't signed yet, but Jaime Candelario still on the board to be picked up. Yeah, I'm going to pick a hitter just so,
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah.
The fact that he signed a 3-year deal in Cincinnati for $15 million a year means he's going to start and he's going to play, even though they have some really young, talented players that are playing the corner spots.
Yeah.
That's as good of a landing spot he could have found after the season he just had.
Yeah, and but an actual pick that someone else made.
I like the TJ. I'm going to stay with Cincinnati. Then I like the TJ Friedel pick, especially if you've built a team that you need a little bit of a stolen base threat or lack of a threat. In the fact that you're able to get him, who has made enough of an impact last year that I would expect him to be pretty much an everyday player in Cincinnati in the 18th round. So
someplace, Justin Mason just jumped.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not that good of a pick where I'm going to go buy the jersey, but at the same time,
it is. That's 18th round by Eric Smolsky. So I'll make sure to let him know that you felt that way.
Same round as Imanaga.
But Imanaga's better. And I mean, you guys are going to think about this and you're going to look back and go, my gosh, Nick, you got Bayo, Cortez, and Imanaga, 16, 17, 18. That's just ridiculous. And that's always one of the fun things is actually going back like a year later, be like, how stupid were we? Like oftentimes no one has like a good team. It's really fun to go back and you find like a mock draft for something where someone just absolutely nailed it. And it never happens. There's always like 2 or 3. Just like, dude, come on. You were so close. But anyway, that is it. Thank you guys so much for sticking around this long. I gotta say, Adam, I enjoyed doing podcasts with you. For whatever reason, you bring out like the more relaxed, weird part of me, which I kind of appreciate a bit that it's different. I trust that you'll be able to pick me up. I think that's the thing. Is like, I can do this and you're professional enough to be like, okay, Nick, anyway, so bring us back.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And remind everyone, Adam, which I mean, I'm sure they all know, but tell us everything that you're doing, where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. I'm producing a couple podcasts on a network you might have heard of, Pitcher List Podcast Network. You can follow at Pitcher List Pods for all the updates of all the shows. And we're regularly producing now, and so they're all out there. And you can follow me on the Twitter. I'm still on the Twitter machine. Still calling it Twitter. Still calling it Twitter too. It's at 80 grade. It's all spelled out. At On the Wire Pod is the show that you can mostly hear me on the Twitter as well. And yeah, I mean, I'm in and out of the Discord as the rest of the staff is. I spend more time in the Discord than I do on Twitter. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, our Discord is amazing.
Yes,
and we'll have some things to announce. I think about our subscriptions moving forward. We're gonna have some new ways for people to support us, which is pretty cool. You can also get 25% off right now, PL Pro, to get access, of course, to Discord and all the things with code Sandy25 in honor of Sandy Alcantara not being there for the full year, and I'm so sad about it still. But yeah, we hope to see you on that Discord. It is truly the best baseball community you will find on the internet. I can't express that enough.
And we just had new staff day, and that's one of the most exciting days of the Discord.
It really is fun because, I mean, especially in December, with all these signings, everything that happens, you just want someone to talk about it.
Yeah. And you got all these new voices, all these new people. It's amazing.
The life of the baseball general channel in that Discord is incredible. And we have 20 million things. It's pretty awesome to see like Sarah Sanchez's reaction, be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm like, I know Sarah, and we're so happy that you're here. But yeah, you're gonna possibly hear her voice in the future. We're excited about that. But that is it for today. So on the behalf of Adam Howe, no, I can't do this. This is your podcast. You're the host, aren't you? Go ahead, do the thing. Do it, Adam.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of On the Corner and On the Wire, co-producing. On behalf of Nick Pollack I am Adam Howe, and we bid you goodbye.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.